Alright, what is up, everybody? Shadow Scout 0013 here, reporting in for a unit breakdown by special request on the Rebel Pathfinders. Kind of want to talk a little bit about them today and, some upgrades that I think are great for them and not so great, the objectives and deployments and all that stuff that I think are great for them, and just a few thoughts, just to kind of break them down and give you a few lists just to kind of go along with the Pathfinders to give you more of an example of how they work and how they synergize really well, especially with Jyn and Cassian. So I'm going to talk about them today, but first let's go ahead and talk about the giveaway. So the giveaway for $20, all you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment down below, and you are entered in to win. What I'll do is I'll pick a video and I'll look at the comments on there, and I'll have a generator that generates a random comment off of that, and yeah, I will contact you and you will get that $20 gift card. And yeah, if you're on the Discord, I'll be able to contact you. If you're not on Discord, then what I would do is just try to get in contact with me. I'll leave the person who won at the very end of the video, so all you have to do is look for that at the beginning of March. And also, if you haven't already, go ahead and then head to the Discord. So why not just go to the Discord and become someone who starts to just talk a little bit about what's going on? We've got a ton of stuff that we're talking about, especially for Empire lists, going over maybe a few of the Imperial Remnant stuff and or just regular Empire lists that had to deal with Moff Gideon, and lots of ideas. So if you ever need ideas, if you ever need help, this is definitely the place to go. There's such a great community, and there's a lot of us that just love talking. So definitely do what you can to just contribute if you want to, no need. Also, you can support this channel and myself at Clan of Shadows. Just go ahead and go to the Patreon now, and all you gotta do is become a patron, and what you'll get are some breakthrough breakdowns. So I'm going to go over the objectives and kind of break them down and give you the best units that I think are great for them, and then list building talks and stuff like that, just previews and getting stuff early. So that is a benefit if you join the Discord or the Patreon. Then also, if you work out or don't work out or new to working out but you want to, you can head to theburnacademy.com for $15 a month. You can subscribe, download the app, and you get 3, 4, 5, 6-day week workout plans that are all 3 months long, corrective exercise programs, 30-minute workouts, just in case you're time sensitive, at-home workouts, and then 120 different recipes, tracking your progress. Everything you have in the app just right there for your workouts are fantastic to have. So highly recommend it if you don't have it already. So talking about the Pathfinders, let's go ahead and just kind of take a look at them. You're going to get a base of 4, which is obvious, just like all the other ones. You've got 1 health per mini. You've got 2 courage. You've got white defense dice. You surge to offense and defense. You've got a range 1 to 3 gun with 2 white, which is not bad. So it's a little bit better than the fleet troopers because they're range 1 to 2 with 2 whites, but range 1 to 3 is better. But you do have a config that you can put onto them. And you used to get range 1 to 4 with a single white dice, which is actually also still not that bad since you surge, just depending on the upgrades and whatnot. But then you could recover and get a red dice at range 1 to 2, which is also really, really nice. You do have a black dice in per mini in for the whole unit. You get a heavy, no personnel upgrades. It's just a heavy. So they're kind of a niche and specific unit in that way. The scout troopers are the same and stuff like that. So, most of these special forces only really have a heavy upgrade. And then you have a whole bunch of other upgrades, which are really nice. Then you have Danger Sense 3. So you can basically roll an extra defense dice for each suppression token you have, up to 3. You have Dauntless, which means that if you're suppressed, meaning that if you have 2 suppression, or 3 suppression, you can give yourself another suppression to do a free move action. So if you are doing recover the supplies or breakthrough or intercept or something like that, and you definitely have to move, these guys are awesome for it, because then you can just give them that suppression to have them do the free move, and then they get another action. So even if they're suppressed, they still get to do 2 actions in a way. You just have to be very careful that you don't panic them, especially with the new rules saying that, and it's not going to be new rules soon, so I should just say rules. So with the rules, you should just basically try to prepare yourself for the Rebel Pathfinders to be panicked. And I think that's something you're going to really have to look out for and be careful with these guys. So we'll go over a few upgrades and kind of what you need to do. And then they have infiltrate, which is I think one of the biggest keywords they have on here besides danger sense, because infiltrate will allow you to deploy anywhere beyond range 3 of all enemy units. So you can infiltrate outside of your deployment zone onto the board anywhere beyond range 3. And then if you did include recon intel, then you can do a scout move up even more. But for the most part, beyond range 3 is fine, because then you can just basically do what you need to not get shot first. Or if you did have scout, then you could just go for the alpha strike, because you've got the range 1 to 3 guns, but you've also got range 1 to 4, so you don't necessarily have to have the recon intel. That's just different ways to play. So if we take a look at the heavy upgrades, there's only 2 heavy upgrade options, and it's Bastan and Pow. And they both have 2 health each, which is really nice. Bastan does exhaust, but he has a range 1 to 4 gun with 5 dice. And it is Impact 1 and Ion 1. You do already Surge, and you're rolling an extra 4 dice. So if you did have their configuration on, which rolls a white dice at range 4, then you're going to be rolling 8 white dice and a black dice, all surging. And if you have an aim, and then maybe if you had targeting scopes, there's a lot that you can be able to re-roll. That Impact 1 helps a lot. Then you have Pow over here for 2 health, which is a little bit cheaper over here for 20 points at 28. He's got Inspire 1, so he's going to be the leader, which he will die last in the unit, which is really good, because usually your heavy has to go before your leader, but since he's the leader, you're always going to have your heavy. And he's got a red and a white at range 1 to 4, which is also really nice. Just not as many, but still really good. I wish they had options to bring just the regular Rebel Trooper heavy upgrades, because, it's just a band of misfits and saboteurs, like they said, and people who don't fit in, which is funny, because if we look at the World War II Pathfinders, the Pathfinders were the ones who dropped behind enemy lines in France before D-Day to light beacons for airplanes to make sure that they were on course, and a lot of them got caught and captured and died. But yeah, I think is very similar to how Star Wars portrayed the Pathfinders in Star Wars. But yeah, it's really cool. They have a good cool history if you ever want to look into the World War II Pathfinders. They were just a group of guys, just like these guys. But yeah, so it'd be really nice sorry for that tangent, but it'd be really nice to be able to put some other heavy upgrade options onto the Pathfinders. All right. Let's look at the training upgrades real quick. So the training upgrades, they have Duck and Cover, which I think is good to have, because obviously they benefit from suppression. So having a card that gives them suppression in times of need is awesome. But then you also have to worry about having too much, because if they're up front from infiltrating, they're probably going to be getting shot at a lot. So you're only going to really need Duck and Cover for the first 1 or 2 shots to give yourself that suppression. Other times, you're probably not going to want it. So Endurance is actually another really good option, because if you do decide to use Dauntless, you're going to have to give yourself another suppression. So if you had 2 or 3 suppression, you have to give yourself a 3rd or 4th suppression to be able to do the free move, and then you can do an action. But then with Endurance, you'd be able to take that suppression back off and not have to worry about it. And then at the end of the round, you take another one off if you wanted to. Obviously, you don't have to, because Danger Sense allows you to keep suppression if you want. But Endurance, I think, would actually be a really good option, just in case. Hunter, I don't think you need Hunter on these guys. I think they're going to be more worried about, trying to do objectives and some fun stuff. Into the Fray is completely pointless on them, because they already surge. Offensive Push. Offensive Push is a really good argument for that one, because they're going to want to keep moving and shooting. So having that offensive push is actually not a bad idea. Overwatch, it's niche, depending on how you really plan on using Pathfinders, but for the most part, you're never really going to be using Overwatch. And whenever I do these kind of unit breakdowns, I kind of give what I think the point of the unit was, not some awesome fancy ways to play them. So, Anakin is theoretically supposed to be more offensive based, and Obi-Wan's supposed to be defensive based, but you can do a defensive kind of token sharing Anakin and not make him so offensive, and that's kind of like a cool, fun way to play him. So I'm just kind of giving you, I feel like, the ways that they were kind of made to be, and with the fact that they've got Danger Sense, Dauntless, and Infiltrate, they're supposed to get in, do the dirty work as much as they can, and keep moving, because with Dauntless, obviously, it's like they want you to keep them able to be moving. So that's why I think that they're going to be good with Breakthrough, Intercept, Recover the Supplies, and Sabotage the Moisture Evaporators. And I'll get to that in a minute, but let's keep going on. Protector, they don't need because they don't have Guardian. Situational Awareness would actually also be another good upgrade, a really good upgrade for them, because you're going to want to keep them alive as much as you can. And so depending on how you want to use them, if you gave them a lot of dodges, Situational Awareness would actually be pretty good. Tenacity, not so much. And then Up Close and Personal, possibly, but for the most part, I think you're better off doing either Duck and Cover, Endurance, or Offensive Push. And those are the top 3 upgrades that I would put on them. Comms Jammer, you're probably going to get shot at way before they get close enough for this. So I doubt you would need Comms Jammer on them. It just, again, you never know. But I don't think it's a high priority. Comms Relay, not necessarily high priority or really needed. Emergency Transponders, yes. That's a really, really good one. Because when they don't get in order, which more than likely they either might not get in order, because the commanders that you usually have with them, what I would usually have with them is Jyn and Cassian, and they're giving orders to either themselves or Special Forces, which are the Pathfinders, but you're not getting you're not getting them the cards every turn. So Emergency Transponder would be really nice, because you can either gain the aim, a dodge, or remove a suppression token, which in times of need, especially if they've had to Dauntless themselves and move and you don't have endurance, then Emergency Transponder would probably be able to get rid of one of the extra. Like if you had 3 suppression and you wanted to use Dauntless, maybe use Emergency Transponder, get rid of that suppression to give you 2, then use Dauntless and then do a move. So there's a lot you could probably do with it. So that's why I would include Emergency Transponder. Also, having a dodge or an aim, or the option of having any of those, is really nice. So HQ Uplink, I also would highly recommend as a top upgrade for them in the comm slot, because you're probably going to want to go with them in times of need, because they're going to be more time critical because of the infiltrate, in my opinion. So HQ Uplink would be really nice, and you're probably going to recover them anyway for a few different reasons. So that's why, like, Offensive Push, HQ Uplink would, and their configuration, those 3 things would give you a reason to recover and then shoot in a way. Hacked Comms Link, again, I don't think the enemy is going to be close enough. They're going to probably shoot at you and probably take them out as much as possible before they get that close. And then long range comm link, unless you really have like Jyn or Urso, it could be okay. Jyn Urso or Cassian, wow. Then yeah, long range comm link might be okay, because you're not infiltrating with a regular generic commander. But I don't really think you're going to need it. I think this is really much better on bikes or something that travels way faster, because they're going to be getting ahead of your commander. Your commander's probably going to be trying to catch up to the Pathfinders. So which is another reason why I don't think long-range comlink is needed. Then, let's go to gear. Ascension cables, for sure. Yeah, I feel like that's a good priority upgrade that you can give to them, so that way they have scale, they ignore all the difficult terrain, and be able to just move up buildings when they need to, how they need to, without having to slow down. Electric binoculars and or grappling hooks I don't recommend, because you're going to want to give them actions to do things, not to support someone. Emergency stems, yeah, that could be good. Maybe, but I don't know. I doubt it. Environmental gear and or grappling hooks, you might as well just take ascension cables. Again, because you're probably going to be recovering and or have good reason to recover. So yeah, buried supplies I think is really good, just because it's giving them an extra dodge. And since they're going to want to be doing other things, like aiming and shooting or moving and shooting or something like that, having an extra dodge for them is really nice. Recon Intel, again, another good one for them, because then you can you can infiltrate beyond range 3, and then you can scout 1 up into a closer range, and maybe eventually you've got the configure on the 2. So maybe you infiltrated and then you scout up a little bit more, and then all you have to do is move and then shoot, and you've got a ton of red dice going at them. So Recon Intel could be good. And then targeting scopes. Yeah, I think targeting scopes would be really nice, especially with Bistan. because the fact that you're going to be rolling so many white dice with them, yeah, there's a really good argument to bring targeting scopes. So these are the kind of like top three, and then maybe Ascension cables could also be there. Again, definitely take the configuration because it's free. Why not? Grenades, really the best ones might be like concussion grenades or the sonic imploders, possibly smoke. Nah, smoke. Maybe they don't really have low profile or anything, so you might not need that. Impact grenades, if you're fighting against a lot of armor, sure, but you've already got Bastan, which has Impact 1 and Ion 1. So concussion grenade and sonic imploders, I think, are the top two. Frag grenades, sure, but you've already got red dice at range 1 to 2 in your gun, and this is a range 1. So you're better off and you already surge, you don't necessarily have to have them. I know it's a good one, but you don't need it on the Rebel Pathfinders. And so that is all of the upgrades for them. So the objectives that I would take are breakthrough, intercept, recover, and sabotage the moisture evaporators, as you've already been able to see. And I say that because with breakthrough, they can infiltrate, so they're already closer to your opponent's deployment zone. With intercept the transmissions, it's a trooper unit-based mission, so the fact that you can infiltrate, you might be able to kind of flank around and not even really think about the middle objective, let them kind of pour everyone in there, and then, or make them think that you're going for the middle, but really go for the outside ones, so that way, you've got a fun way of playing. I don't know, something different. Recover the supplies, again, because of infiltrate, and then sabotage moisture evaporators, because they might threaten evaporator, and you might be able to just keep yours safe. You're just going to have to be very careful, because you might lose on victory points if you can't get to their moisture evaporator. So you just got to kind of be careful with that. Or at least you can infiltrate in to protect half of your flank and to protect half the moisture evaporators. I'd go with battle lines, major offensive, long march, and rollout. And the reason being is because with battle lines, they're spread thin, so you might be able to completely infiltrate almost over here into the deployment zone if they're kind of balled up. So there's a really good chance that infiltrate does a lot of good for you. Major offensive, you can always come right here and go in, or come right here and go in, or do whatever you ever need to. But because, again, infiltrate, it's easier for you to get closer to their deployment zone. Same with long march. And then rollout, they could be spread out a little bit more, so you'd have a better chance of kind of getting in with infiltrate. And yeah, limited viz is fine, because then you can start at your range 2 gun, and then they can't really do anything, but you'd have a really good range 2 weapon just in case they did get close enough. Rapid reinforcements would be good, because then you could probably drop a medic or another unit or two close to them. So now you've got a lot of your units balled up, and it's a lot harder. You're providing more firepower out of that spot. Fortified positions to kind of protect the Pathfinders, and then supply drop to give them more supplies. And that's really those are kind of the biggest things I'll think of when Pathfinders come to mind. So now let's kind of go over some lists, shall we? Let's look at Jyn. So Jyn, right now, with Courage 3, fantastic commander to have, just period. She's got quick thinking, danger sense 4, infiltrate, and nimble, and sharpshooters. And sharpshooters are going to be really handy, especially with these new cover rolls, or these cover rolls at this point. And she's got a suppressive melee, and suppression, does a lot. Not really a melee. You're not really giving out very many things, but yeah, she's got the danger sense 4, which is really nice. And the courage 3 is really going to help your Pathfinders, because they've got danger sense 3, so they can have 3 suppression, which is still giving them 1 action, but at least they're not panicking, they're not going anywhere with Jyn. So that's why I'd have Jyn over a normal commander. Now, she's got quick thinking and nimble, so she's going to be able to take an aim, a dodge, and then shoot, use the aim if she needs to, and then she's got a dodge consistently sitting there, and then she's got nimble. So she's going to be able to use that dodge for every shot against her that whole turn. So that's why I gave her vigilance, because at the end of the round, which she'll have a dodge if she took a dodge, she can keep it for the next round. And then I've given her situational awareness so that if one gets through, she can at least just use the dodge to cancel the crit, which has happened to me multiple times. I do the same thing with Iden. I give her situational awareness because she's also got quick thinking and nimble, and keeps her dodge. And usually it's almost like, especially with the cover rules, you're only getting maybe 1 hit through cover, especially if it's just crits. So that situational awareness really does help a lot. And then Prepared Supplies is there to give her an extra dodge in case she needs it. And then her free config to make sure that she has a good range 1 to 3 and 2 shot with Pierce naturally. Cassian, I've given Up Close and Personal and Hunter because if you do decide to infiltrate him in really, really close, he's got a good range 2 weapon, long shot, Pierce, and he's got Marksman. So, you can, and he's got Tactical. So if you moved and then shot, you're going to be able to get an aim, shoot them at range 1 to 2, then gain a dodge, and then you've got situational awareness. So you're kind of getting as many tokens as possible the whole time, and then being able to cancel crits and stay alive as long as possible. He's also got Danger Sense 3, so he's also going to be able to roll more dice based on suppression. So yeah, hopefully that situational awareness makes them way more tanky, especially, with the Prepared Supplies. K2, I have to be able to give the aim and a dodge to Cassian and or Jyn. And then he also gives a suppression based on calculate the odds to one of them, which again helps with cover, and they've got danger sense. So it's just almost a given to do K2. Also, K2 has incognito, and one of the missions that is also really great with Pathfinders is breakthrough. And with incognito, he can't be shot beyond range 1 unless he's done an attack action or done anything with the objective. So you could just walk him into the deployment zone almost pretty easily. And then they'll be distracted between wanting to go after K2 and or, Jyn and Cassian and or the Pathfinders that are with them. And I decided to do the Rebel Pathfinders with, both heavies, duck and cover, emergency transponder, because you're probably going to be recovering again. So why not just at least use the duck and cover to begin with, just to try. And it's the same points, the 4 and 2, as endurance. Just, if I were to give them endurance, I wouldn't get the possibility of having an extra aim or dodge when I need it, and or to try and get the suppression off whenever I need it. So that's why I had those. And then the free config. You have to have your 3 core, so I decided to have that. And then you've got the AA5 with the Fleet Troopers with the scatter gun, which is Pierce and 2 red, along with an extra Fleet Trooper and the normal guys with targeting scopes. So now you're going to be shooting, 8, 10, 12 dice once you get out the bus, all surging, but they're all white dice except for 2 red. That's why targeting scopes is needed for sure, because then you can just get off the bus and go ham. And on the bus, I've given Shriv to hand out those dodges, Backworld Medic to hand out free as a medic, basically, and to give out those suppression in case, either the Pathfinders and or Jyn and Cassian needs that extra suppression, along with healing them. And then Unorthodox Tactician, because Marksman on Cassian, and then everyone, especially, always needs aims. So that's why I've given the Unorthodox Tactician and then the Heavy Laser, just to kind of, again, give them at least some sort of offense. Now, Crackshot, I've got, especially, is really good with Cassian's sniper rifle, because Gunslinger at range 1 to infinity with Marksman is really nice, because then you can just take an aim, and then you get an aim from the cards. You've got 2 aims. You don't have Sharpshooter, but, if you at least roll a hit, you can change one to a crit. It is Pierce. It's going to go through cover. Boom. And then you roll again for your Gunslinger. Maybe you roll a hit. He does surge to hit. Yeah, so if you do that, you just spin that aim to get into a crit, and it's Pierce. And yeah, so he doesn't need Sharpshooter because he's got dice fixing. I've given Jyn her 1 pip because if you're infiltrating, and you're probably infiltrating close to your Pathfinders. So you've got all of these guys, both Pathfinder units, K2 and Cassian and Jyn. So I have a feeling that your opponent's going to bring a lot of their army to them. So Rebellious might actually be really good with charge and, 1 per round when an enemy at range 1 to 2 and in line of sight of Jyn activates. Before it performs its rally step, Jyn may gain a suppression to perform an attack against the unit or perform a free move. So what you could do is do your move and you've got charge. So that's very, very helpful. But it's just, very situational. Last stand with Cassian. This one is going to give him and another trooper Indomitable if he gives it to a commander or operative. And then they're also going to gain an aim, a dodge, or a suppression token for each wound they have, up to 3. So this is really good, especially in times when Jyn and or Cassian have a real big issue with wounds and suppression. And so that's just an easy way for them to get off it. the suppression because they've got such high danger senses. Trust goes both ways. This is a good one to use with Cassian and with the Rebel Veterans. So that's why I included the Rebel Veterans in this as well. So trust goes both ways. Jyn Erso gains Inspire 2, which is really needed because you don't have a generic commander. So between Indomitable and Inspire 2, at least on this card, you're good to go. Now there is another 2-pip in Rebels that gives it to heavies and or support units, 2 of them, and they're going to gain Inspire 2, but you only have 1 truck, and I don't know if it's necessarily worth it to bring a 2-pip when the 2-pip here is giving you tons of tokens, and the other one here gives you Teamwork and Inspire 2. So with Teamwork, if you decided to team up with Cassian and gave Cassian the order, K2 can use, calculate the odds on Cassian. Cassian gains the aim, a dodge, and a suppression. K2 is going to gain the aim and a dodge, and then Jyn Erso is going to gain the aim and a dodge, and then she's probably going to have vigilance from the last turn, so that gives her an extra dodge, and then maybe she's just quick thinking that turn, giving her a 3rd dodge. She's got the situational awareness, and she's got prepared supplies on top of that, so there's a lot of really fun ways to, do things with Teamwork with Cassian, because K2 is also involved, or if you really needed to, you could go with the Rebel Veterans, give the Rebel Veterans the order. They will gain their dodge. Jyn's going to gain the dodge from Teamwork, and then the Rebel Veterans, if they're close enough, can coordinate to the medium blaster trooper who can also fire support in case he needs to. So that's just kind of like a fun little chain you can do with Trust Goes Both Ways. Volunteer mission, you're giving it to a commander, operative, and or special forces, so it's really, really handy with Jyn, Cassian, K2, and the 2 Pathfinders. They're going to recover for free, so this is where they can recover, and if you had maybe offensive push, HQ uplink, and then you had their config, they're going to be able to get all of that back again. So you give it to Cassian and both Pathfinders, and there you go. You can give it to Jyn and K2 so they can recover along with Cassian if your Pathfinders are dead, but you never know. So this is definitely a good card to have. And then Complete the Mission is insane. It's really, really good. It's just 3 trooper units. You don't have to give it to Jyn, but you can. Jyn Erso is just going to gain low profile. So when she needs to, between the suppression, low profile, and light cover, she's going to have that cancel 3 hits. And then she's got situational awareness and dodges. Oh man, it's insane. So she should be harder to kill. And then when a friendly trooper unit is issued an order, you can gain a suppression token, or it may gain a suppression token. And then when a friendly trooper unit with a face-up order token activates, so one of the ones that you gave basically from the card, if they activate, during its activation, it cannot be panicked or suppressed. And then at the end of the unit's activation, it may remove a suppression. So if you're on the verge of almost panicking, you can play this card, give them the extra suppression, and they can't be panicked or suppressed. So, I don't know how that goes with objective cards. At the end, if you're panicked, you don't count towards objectives, but this card is saying that you can't be panicked or suppressed. So if you did play this on the last round and you went with them last, obviously they're going to remove a suppression, so they probably wouldn't be panicked anyway. So maybe they had like 3 suppression, you give them the 4th one, they're technically panicked, but they can't be panicked or anything like that this whole turn. Or so during its activation, it can't be panicked or suppressed. So yeah, it just, never mind, scratch all that. Just give them the extra suppression during their activation. They can't become panicked or suppressed, and then they just move into a safe haven, take off that suppression, and then just go whatever. But there's a 10 activation list. You can use the AA5 with the giving out dodges, giving out aims to move up to the Pathfinders, K2, and everyone else from the deployment zone to provide cover and to drop off their payload to kind of alleviate what is happening to the Pathfinders more than likely. And I think that this is fun because the AA5 providing that line of sight blocking is on point. And then lastly, we have Cassian, pretty much the same exact build. Jyn Erso, the same exact build. This time K2 has Jyn's blaster, and then I have R2. So these two I feel like play into each other pretty well, and it also gives you 2 operative tokens instead of just 1 like in the other one. So if you do pull an operative, you're going to have to go with K2, and in this one you can at least choose. And I would probably keep R2 close to K2 and then use K2, his calculate the odds on R2. He's going to gain that aim, dodge, and suppression, and R2 is really going to benefit from the dodge and suppression because obviously you want as many dodges on R2 as he double moves, so it's basically giving him the ability to take an action for free and a suppression. So his inconspicuous, whenever he has a suppression token, your opponent must attack another unit if able. Obviously, they can't attack K2 because of his incognito, so they're probably going to have to attack, hopefully, your airspeeder or someone else, your Pathfinders. So I would keep your R2 kind of going up the field by K2 and your Pathfinders, so that way he can meet K2, heal K2, and then K2 can kind of continue walking with R2 into the deployment zone because he can't be shot past range 1. R2 needs to get into the deployment zone, and then your Pathfinders there just kind of continuing to cover R2 slash, help him get to the end zone. Then just have the regular trooper units in this one, and then the airspeeder with the ground buzzer, giving you 10 activations at 800 points, and, you've also got R2 to heal the airspeeder in case you need it. I couldn't fit R2 in the last one with the AA5 because you needed something to get into the AA5, and even if you took away one of the other core, you only have 1 more point here, so that'd be like 49, and R2's 55. So you wouldn't have enough points if you got rid of any of these. So yeah, it's kind of hard. So that's why I had to do it with the airspeeder this time instead. But yeah, guys, that is it. That is the Pathfinders. They go really, really well with Jyn and Cassian because they're going to be able to have the courage bubble of Jyn, and they're going to be able to infiltrate in with Jyn and Cassian to provide a lot of fire support with them. And you've got a huge ball of 5 people or 5 units on one part of the board, and then you've got the other units either catching up and or doing objectives. And I really like this one with the AA5 because, say that your rebel Pathfinders are getting shot at like crazy, and or Cassian and Jyn, then all of a sudden your bus shows up, heals a wound off one of them, maybe gives them another suppression, possibly 2 or none at least, and then gives them some aims and a dodge. Like, the amount of back and forth support you've got is insane. So I like this list with Pathfinders. Pathfinders were one of the extra expansion packs I got when I first got into the game in 2018 because I thought they were cool. I loved Rogue One. I loved Infiltrate, and I had really no idea how to use them or, how important they were or not important they were, how good they were. I just really liked them. They were different than the Rebel Troopers, and they looked cool, and, yeah. But that's the Pathfinders for you, K2 and Cassian, and they work well very synergistically together. I would keep them that way. If you do break them apart, then I would have a plan as to what you're going to do to either support them or just sacrifice them. You could just use them as a sacrificial lamb to get done things, but with Dauntless, that can really come in handy. All right, guys, that is it. If you haven't already, go ahead, subscribe, leave a comment, and that'll get you entered in to win the $20 gift card. Go ahead and head to the Discord channel, and yeah, go ahead and talk. We're talking about a lot of what's going on in the show, the Bad Batch. So if you're interested, you can talk about the Bad Batch, and then go ahead and submit any Imperial list, Rebel list, CIS lists, anything that you really need help with. Emperor, Atlantis, and the Chosen One are really, really good. Or Anthony, who is a Patreon member, is really good at helping reply back whenever I can't. I've got 2 businesses to run, and then I have another job that I'm also trying to work. So there's a lot along with doing this. So I try to chime in when I can and do everything possible to keep interacting with you guys. And then go ahead and become a Patreon at Clan of Shadows. Link is in the description. Helps build the channel, helps me bribe people into doing battle reports, and hopefully not screw up the footage at that point in time. And also, you can head to theBurnAcademy.com for $15 a month and subscribe, download the app, and get everything at your fingertips to succeed in the gym. Alright, guys, here you go. The Special Forces leader, Kitsune, and the Shadow Commander, Anthony. Thank you so much for your support and everything that you do with this channel. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and may the Force be with you.